The transfer window shuts on Monday, so I've put together a list of one player that every Premier League club needs to sign before deadline day. Starting with West Ham, I've got Matheus Fernandes. He has all the skills and attributes of a really good number 8. He's good at winning the ball back, driving forward, picking out the right pass and finishing himself. He's only 21 years of age, and also it's no surprise that West Ham need to rebuild their midfield. They lost 3-0 to Sunderland on the opening day. They got hammered 5-1 by Chelsea in game week 2. Fernandes could bring that bit of quality to help them stay competitive in the Premier League, which is very, very important. For Newcastle, I picked Johan Visser. I think both sets of fans, Brentford and Newcastle fans, want the sagas of Visser and Isak to end. They both conducted themselves very poorly this transfer window, and for Visser to go to Newcastle, I think would be a good move for all parties, really. Brentford get rid of a player who clearly doesn't want to be at the club anymore. Newcastle get a decent player for a good fee that scored 19 non-penalty goals last season, and also I think he'll link up the play between Anthony Gordon and Anthony Elanga very, very well. For Crystal Palace, I have picked Conor Gallagher. He was on loan at the club a few seasons back from Chelsea and became a bit of a fan favourite. He had a very good season. I'm sure there are a lot of Palace fans that would love to take him back, especially partner next to Adam Wharton. I'm sure they'll form a very good partnership. Now, Palace are in Europe this season for the first time in the club's history, so it is a very important transfer window, and thus far, they have very much been failing in it. They've only signed 2 players, Borna Sosa and Walter Benitez, both backup players for a combined £3 million. So signing someone like Gallagher could be the X-factor player that sees them over the edge in certain matches, especially in Europe, and could be the difference between them potentially winning the European trophy this season. For Brentford, I've picked George Mikatadze. He is probably the closest player I've seen to Syed Benrahma that we had in the Championship in quite some time, but every Brentford fan will remember Benrahma's Championship performances. He was a quality player. Mikatadze is 24 years old. He's 2-footed. He finishes comfortably with both feet. He wouldn't cost that much because Lyon have to raise 40 million euros this transfer window before it shuts due to their financial problems. So if Mikatadze, Brentford could offer 35 to 40 million euros, Lyon would sort of be forced to accept. And having watched a lot of this guy, I'm very, very excited by the potential of him joining the club because he looks like the real deal. If we can get this over the line, it would be the perfect Wissa replacement. For Aston Villa, I've selected Takefusa Kubo. Now, Villa's biggest problem in these opening couple of games has been the fact that John McGinn has been starting on the wing. He's a great player, he's a fan favourite, but in no world is he ever going to be a winger. And the signing of Kubo, of course, would change that. He's excellent on the ball, he's a great dribbler, and he brings that X factor to that attack, which of course with John McGinn in that attack, who are lacking on this right-hand side of the pitch. Morgan Rogers and Watkins are great players, but they've not really been creating that many chances in these opening 2 games. The signing of Kubo would be perfect for a Villa. For Liverpool, of course, they have been linked heavily to Alexander Isak, but I see that more as a luxury signing, which is why the player I think they need to sign before deadline day is Mark Gahey. Their centre-back depth is quite concerned. Van Dijk and Konate, of course, are the starters. Both are quality players, even though they have struggled in these opening couple of matches. But beyond them, you have like Joe Gomez, who's very, very injury-prone, and so the signing of Mark Gahey would, of course, fix that. It would give them the option to go to a back 3 in some games, but would just provide that depth where if someone like Konate or Van Dijk gets injured, they don't necessarily have to worry as much because Mark Gahey is a wonderful player and of course has a lot of Premier League experience and playing for England as one of England's best players in the last international tournament. Everton, the player I've selected is Nathan Ake. He'd cost around £35 million, which I think is pretty reasonable for a player of his quality coming from a club like Man City. Now, Everton's biggest problem going into the transfer window is the fact that Branthwaite and Mikalenko are both currently injured, and the signing of Ake could kill 2 birds with 1 stone because, of course, he's played centre-back and left-back before in his career and done so very well. He'll be a great signing for them if they can get this deal over the line. And for Manchester United, the only answer to this question has to be a goalkeeper. The fact that United have managed to go into a new season with Onana and Bayindir as their starting goalkeepers is quite ridiculous. I mean, the game against Grimsby Town in the Carabao Cup just proved it again, but Onana cannot be anywhere near this starting lineup. Bayindir is not really an awful lot better. Really, they made that mistake against Arsenal, which cost them that game too. The player I've selected is Sen Lammers, just because it doesn't look like he will be joining the club. I think he's a decent goalkeeper from what I've seen of him. He has a lot of quality about him, of course. With every goalkeeper, you can go through and pick out mistakes they've made or world-class saves they've made. You'd only really know once he joins the team and joins the league and see how he copes under the pressure. But either way, they have to sign a goalkeeper. For Spurs, the player I've picked is Xavi Simons because it does look like he could be signed for them already. Now, of course, with Spurs, emphasis on the word could because you never really know of them until the player has signed on the dotted line. But if this deal does get done, it would be the perfect signing for the club. He's a very tidy player, a very skillful player, and will fit that Spurs number 10 role incredibly well. Even though it has been a tough summer for Tottenham in the attacking midfielder position, Kulusevski was injured before the season started, Maddison was injured in pre-season, and they missed out on the signings of Eze and Morgan Gibbs-White. But if they could get Simmons, it would make up for all of that. For Wolves, I've selected Hayden Hackney. Last season in the Championship, he had more progressive passes than any other player in the division, and honestly, I think he's far too good for that league. I'm surprised a lot of other clubs, including my club Brentford, haven't gone for him, but I think a club like Wolves could swoop in late and get a bargain signing. They already have Andre and Gomez, two quality players, but it is highly likely that one, if not both, leave the club next summer, even if Wolves stay in the division, which I do believe they will. So signing someone like Hackney could give them that bargaining power in the summer to not necessarily have to go out and spend a lot of money when they do eventually sell one of their starting midfielders. For Bournemouth, it has to be another defender, and the player I picked out is Arthur Tiet. Now, he is 25, so he's not like an up-and-coming prodigy. It's more a see what you see, you get what you get type player. But that's the type of player that I think you really do need when you replace pretty much your entire back line. Players like Zabani, Howson, Kirkes, Kepa all leaving the club, and they have replaced a few of those quite well. But I do still think they need another centre-back, especially one who's good at playing the ball, and I think Arthur Tiet will be a good player for them if they can get this deal done. For Brighton, I've picked Kobbie Mainoo. This is, of course, a World Cup season, and Kobbie is not going to be benefiting himself if he's stuck on Manchester United's bench. And playing for Manchester United right now is not the best either because they're playing terribly, and if Kobbie started for them and played terribly as well, probably wouldn't benefit him either. Whereas if he comes to a club like Brighton and gets regular minutes partnered next to one of the best defensive midfielders in the league, in Carlos Baleba, his performances will be a lot better, and it will allow him to potentially start for England at the World Cup. For Sunderland, the player I've gone with is John Lukumi. I've said for a while, but if Sunderland want to survive this season, they have to invest well in their defence. They have done so far, but the signing of Lukumi could be the icing on the cake. He's a good centre-back, they need a good centre-back, and he'll be available for quite cheap. Get it done, Sunderland, and I think you have enough to survive. As for Leeds, the signing of Facundo Buonanotte could be the signing that is the difference between survival and relegation. I still think Leeds need a little bit more if they want to survive, but Buonanotte is halfway there at least. Last season he was excellent in his cameos for Leicester. Leicester obviously had a really weird season where they didn't really play any of their best attacking players, but that wasn't Buonanotte's fault because whenever he was on the pitch, he looked like a game changer, and if Leeds can get this done, it would be a great bit of business. For Manchester City, honestly, I don't think they should sign anyone. I think they've done very well in this transfer window. There's no clear weaknesses in the team that I think need to be solved. In fact, I'll actually pick a player that I think they shouldn't sign, and that's Gianluigi Donnarumma. He's a very good goalkeeper, don't get me wrong, one of the best in Europe last season, but he's not good with his feet, and I think a lot of City fans wanted them to sign him after James Trafford's mistake against Spurs. But Donnarumma would have probably made the same mistake in that same position, so they shouldn't sign him, not after spending that much, to bring Trafford back to the club. It wouldn't really make sense as a sign-in. For Nottingham Forest, the player I've picked is Matty Cash. He's, of course, a fan favourite. He was at the club a good few years ago, back when they were in the Championship, and they could bring him back when they're in Europe, and it would give them that fullback depth, which they desperately need. Every other position on the pitch has quite good depth, but in fullback, they just don't. They have Aina, they have Williams, and if one of those gets an injury across the season, which of course has many more games now, they are going to be in a little bit of trouble. So signing someone like Cash, who's not necessarily going to push too much to be a starter, but he is going to provide a good bit of depth, would be a decent signing for them. For Fulham, the signing of Samuel Chukwueze does make sense, and he does look like a good player, but overall they've just had an incredibly boring transfer window. They've not really signed anyone, they've not really been linked to anyone, and they've not really done anything, but signing Chukwueze could be good. He is a quality player, and they also looked close to be signing the Brazilian winger Kevin. So two wingers in before deadline day could make for an interesting end to the window, but overall it's just been incredibly boring, hasn't it? For Chelsea, I don't think they should sign anyone. I know they've been linked to Fer Lopez of Barcelona, but honestly, again, I think it just comes down to Chelsea signing way too many players. I think their squad right now looks good. They have a very good starting lineup. They always have good depth. I don't really think they need to go out and spend a lot of money to sign another player that they just don't necessarily need right now. Fer Lopez is a good player, but there's no reason why they can't go back in for him in the next transfer window if they still want him. And right now, they just don't need him. Penultimate team on this list, Arsenal. I honestly think they shouldn't sign anyone, but that's because I think they've had the best transfer window of any club in the Premier League, at least at the time of recording, followed closely by Liverpool, of course. But Arsenal, since Mikel Arteta has taken over, since he's done his rebuild, their biggest problem has always been the striker and the left winger. They fixed both of those positions in the same window by signing two really quality players. Ebri Cheze is an excellent signing. Victor Gyökeres is an excellent signing. And they've also fixed their depth problem as well by signing Noni Madueke. So if Saka does get injured, they have a good player who can play there. They've got players like Max Doman coming through. Their defensive depth looks really good. They've got Norgard in that midfield who's going to do a good job if they need him. Honestly, I think Arsenal have smashed it and they don't really need anyone else. Finally, for Burnley, I've seen a surprising link of Timo Werner. Do I think this deal is going to happen? Absolutely not. I don't think he's going to leave and come to Burnley, especially not on his current wages. But if Burnley can get this done, he would be an interesting player. He is a very frustrating player, but he does bring that speed to that attack, which, you know, Burnley right now, they don't really have a Premier League quality squad. Yes, they did beat Sunderland on the weekend, did a very good job in doing so, but realistically, they are going to finish 20th this season. I'm sorry, Burnley fans who are listening. So that is it for today's video. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. Thank you always for watching, and until next time, hive out.